The globalization of economic relations. Economic globalization refers to the increasing interdependence of world economies as a result of the growing scale of cross-border trade of commodities and services. I So economic globalization is important because it spurred the spread of a new technology, helping to make economies greener and more productive. Interconnected dimensions of economic globalization. The globalization of trade of goods and service. When a country exports more than it imports, it runs a trade surplus. When a country imports more than it exports, it runs a trade deficit. Oh, in case if you didn't know what surplus means, it means it describes the amount of an asset or resource that exceeds the fortune that's actively utilized. The globalization of financial and capital markets. A country enjoys absolute advantage over another country in the production of a good if it uses a few resources to produce that good than the other country does. Okay, so capital markets refer to the place where savings and investments are moved between suppliers of capital and those who are in need of capital. Oh, in case you didn't know what capital, it just basically means asset. The globalization of technology and communication. Capital is not the only factor of production required to produce output. Labor is equally important. To be productive, the workforce must be healthy. Health is not the only issue, but basic literacy as well, as specialized training in farm management. So technology and communication refers to the cross-cultural development and exchange of technology, sharing ideas, information, goods, and services. The globalization of production. Production is the process which inputs are combined and transformed into output. Production technology relates inputs to outputs. Specific quantities of inputs are needed to produce any given service or good. Most outputs can be produced by a number of different techniques. So, this benefits companies because it allows to find lower cost ways to produce their products. The extinction of globalization from internationalization. Dickens, from 2004, distinguished economic globalization from internationalization by stating that the former is functional integration between internationally dispersed activities, while the latter is about the extension of economic activities of nation states across borders. In other words, globalization refers to the processes by which a company brings its business to the rest of the world, while internationalization is the practice of designing products, services, and internal operations to facilitate expansion into international market. The World Trade Organization and GATT. In 1947, the 23 nations, including the US, signed the GATT. GATT is treaty among 123 nations whose governments agreed, at least in principle, to promote trade among members. GATT was intended to be multilateral, global initiative, and GATT negotiators did succeed in liberalizing world, world merchandise trade. If you don't know what GATT means, it means General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. And in case y'all don't know what tariff means, it's just basically a tax. By the way, the US World Trade Organization or World Trade Center Twin Tower got destroyed by two hijacked commercial airliners on September 11, 2001. This is also called a 9/11 event. The discrimination or hate against the Muslims went sky high since then. Preferential trade agreements, term used in the WTO for trade preferences, just as lower or zero tariffs, which a member may offer to a trade partner unilaterally. So, Preferential trade agreements is a trading bloc that gives preferential access to certain products from the participating countries. This is done by reducing tariffs, but not by abolishing them completely. Free trade areas, also known as FTA, is formed when two or more countries agree to abolish all internal barriers to trade among themselves. My great example for this is the US and Russia. They hate each other, but they still had business and trade going on between the two of them, despite the hate. That's all for now. Thank you.
Good day po. Ako po si Jose Ramirez. Ang i-report ko po ay Custom Union, Common Market, North American Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA, Andean Community, Common Market of South Asia Pacific, and Association of Southeast Asia or ASEAN. Custom Union. Custom Union represent the logical evaluation of free trade area. Ano ba yung free trade area? Ito yung meaning. Free trade area is the region in which group of countries has signed a free trade agreement and maintain a little or no barrier to trade in the form of tariffs, quotas, and between each other. In addition to eliminating internal barrier to trade, member of Custom Union established the Common External Barrier. On January 1, 1996, the European Union and Turkey initiated the Custom Union of in an effort to boost two-way trade above the current annual level of $20 million. The arrangement called Elimination of Tariffs averaged 14% that added $1.5 billion each year to the cost of European goods imported by Turkey. Common Market. Common Market is the next step in the spectrum of economic integration. In addition to removal of internal barriers to trade and the establishment of common internal barriers, the Common Market allows for free movement or factor of production, including labor, capital, and information. Examples include the Central American Integration System, the Common Market of the South, the Andean Community, and Association of Southeast Asian Nations. What is the difference between Common Market and Custom Union? Custom Union is where all obstacles of free movement of goods and services are removed. The common external tariff is agreed. A common market is union of partners with free movement of goods, services, and additional of free movement labor and capital. North American Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA. North America, which include Canada, the United States, and Mexico, represent the distinctive regional market. The United States is the home to more global industry leaders, a total of 62 companies according to the Fortune magazine Global 500 ranking. The US companies are the dominant producers of the computers, software, aerospace, entertainment, medical equipment, and jet engine industry sectors. In 1988, the United States and Canada signed the Free Trade Agreement, US-Canada Free Trade Agreement or CFTA, informally come into existence in 1989. This helps explain the fact of that $300 billion per year in goods and services flow between Canada and the United States. The biggest trading relationship between any two nations. Canada takes 20% of U.S. export and the United States buy nearly 80% of Canada export. See the table for 4.1 and 4.2. In August 12, 1992, representatives from the United States, Canada, and Mexico conclude the negotiation for the NAFTA. The agreement was approved by both houses of the U.S. Congress and became effective on January 1, 1994. The result is the Free administrative area which combine the population of nearly 40 billion and the total of GPN of 8.3 trillion dollars. Dito makikita natin yung table 4.1 and table 4.2. Ito yung export trading partners at import trading partners ng NAFTA. Trading partner export, Canada 154.1%, Mexico 79.8%, Japan 57.8%, Germany 49.8%, United Kingdom 39.0%, Netherlands 19.0%, Taiwan 18.1%, France 17.7%, South Korea 16.5%. Ito yung export trading partners ng NAFTA. Kung makikita natin, pinakamataas yung Canada, the next is Mexico, at yung pinakababa ay South Korea. Mahalaga yung import industry, export industry sa nila kasi parang mas mataas yung yung produkto nila, kaya kailangan nila magbenta sa ibang bansa. Mas tataas yung ekonomiya ng bansang yon, na mas madami yung ini-import nila. Di ba sa NAFTA yung computer, mga medical equipment, at etc. Yun ang kanilang mga products. Tulad sa mga North America part area. The table 4.2 is the US goods import trading partner. Trading partner import, Canada 117.8%, Japan 121.9%, Mexico 94.7%, China 71.1%, United Kingdom 34.4%, Taiwan 33.1%, Germany 26.2%, France 24.0%, South Korea 23.9%, Singapore 18.3%. Ito po ay galing sa, ang source po nito, US Bureau of the Census. Andean Community. Andean Community, formerly the Andean Pact, was formed at 1968 to accelerate the development of member state Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela. Through economic and social integration, member agreed to the lower tariffs on intergroup trade and work together to decide what products each country should produce. At the same time, foreign goods and companies were kept out as much as possible. Ito yung Andean Community, ito yung isa sa maganda para mas tumaas yung ekonomiya. Ito yung community nito, ito ang country community na nagtutulungan para makapag-produce sila as much possible ng products at foreign goods na maitutulong sa import and export trading or industry nila. Baga, mas aangat yung ekonomiya ng bansa nila. Bawat bansa magbibigay ng opinion or suggestion para bawat bansa merong ma-produce na services or products na maganda at makatulong sa ekonomiya nila. Common Market of the South or Mercosur. In March 1991, the government of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay signed the Assumption Treaty to form the Common Market of the South, in Spanish, Mercado Común del Sur or Mercosur. On August 5, 1994, the president of the four countries agreed to begin paying the tariff reform on January 1, 1995. Internal tariffs were eliminated, and common internal tariffs of up to 20% were established. Ultimately, goods, services, and factors of production will move freely throughout the member countries until such a goal is achieved. Mercosur operates as a customer union. About 15% of trade, including advanced electronics and capital, is not covered by the agreement. On June 5, 1996, Chile's president signed an agreement making Chile an associate member of Mercados effective October 1, 1996. Chile choose not a full-time member because it's already lower external tariffs than the rest of Mercosur. Full membership should require raising them. Asia Pacific. The Asia Pacific region refers to the regions of East or Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands, and South Asia, with 56% of world population. Dito pumapasok yung 56% ng buong world population. Gawa nga malaki yung Pacific, yung Asia Pacific, yung pinakamalaking kontinente ay Asia. Dito rin pinakamaraming population na nakukuha sa buong mundo. Tulad ng China, isa sa pinakamadaming population kada bansa. Pacific Rim region merits discussion its own right, and region accounted for approximately one-third of global income since 1997. Japan's represent room surge in the Asia Pacific region. The population density and geographic isolation are two crucial factors that cannot be overstated when discussing Japan. Most of Japan is the mountainous, that is why the residential area represents only 3% and the industry area is only 1.4%. Still, Japan generates outstanding 14% of the world GNP. Kahit na mountainous yung Japan, tas maliit lang, pero outstanding pa rin sila. Mataas pa rin yung kanilang GNP. Kumbaga, mataas pa rin yung kanilang growth, yung kanilang growth economics, yung pagtaas ng ekonomiya nila, isa rin sila sa pinakamayaman sa ekonomiya ng Pacific Asia. Asia Pacific. South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong are sometimes collectively referred as a tiger. Fueled by foreign investment and export-driven industry, and these four countries have achieved stunning rates of economic growth. Another four countries, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and China, were getting close to the point of industry take-off of the prior onset of Asian flu on July 1997. The Association of Southeast Asia Nation. The Southeast Asia Nation, or ASEAN, is the flagship representational trade agreement in the Asia Pacific area. ASEAN was established in 1967 as an organization for economic, political, social, and cultural cooperation among its members. The United States, which at the time was embroiled in the Vietnam War, played a role of establishing ASEAN with the sign of Bangkok Declaration. Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand were the 6 original member. Nung una, 6 pa lang talaga ASEAN. Yung Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Hanggang sa sumama na din ang Vietnam at ang first communist nation in the group when is admitted to ASEAN in July 1995. Colombia and Laos was admitted to the ASEAN at the organization 30th anniversary meeting in the July 1997. Burma, now Myanmar, joined in 1998. Following delay related to the country internal politics and human rights record. Individually and collectively, ASEAN countries are active in the regional and global trade. Two-way trade between United States and ASEAN totaled $83.8 billion in 1994. There is the growing realization among the ASEAN officials that broad common goals and perception are not enough to keep the association alive. yung na-realize nila na hindi sapat yung mga trade o yung mga growth ng kanilang organization, kailangan nilang maisalba pa. Kumbaga, hindi pa sapat ang ginagawa o kinikita nila para mapataas yung ekonomiya ng ASEAN, ng bawat bansa sa ASEAN. The constant problem is the strict need to consensus among all members before ASEAN proceed with any form of cooperative effort. Although the ASEAN member are geographically close, yun nga, kahit nga daw malapit lang yung bansa, yung magkakadais lang, kasi nga Southeast Asia lang, medyo nagkakaproblema pa rin sa communication, sa pagkakasundo, sa mga, sa maraming problema. One of the reason the association remain in existing is that in accomplish among almost nothing. However, the situation is changing today. In 1994, Economic Ministry from the member of nation agreed to implement an ASEAN Free Trade Area or AFTA by 2003, and it is now working. Under the agreement, tariffs up to at 20% or more will be reduced to the more than 5%. In 1996, intra-ASEAN trade surpassed $70 billion. Tapos yan nga, tumas na. Hanggang ngayon yung pa rin ang gumagana, at gumagana pa rin yung ASEAN Free Trade Area, yung in-implement nila. Sa ASEAN, ang pinakamayaman ay yung Singapore. Kumbaga napakalaking papel niya, napakalaking papel ng Singapore sa economic development ng ASEAN. Pagka mas nakinabang talaga yung Singapore, gawa mas tumataas pa yung ekonomiya nila, yung mga sa political, culture, etc. Lahat sa economic, political, social, and cultural, yung yung Singapore talaga ang mas nakinabang. Kumbaga, sila yung mataas sa buong Asia, sa buong ASEAN, sila yung mataas sa mga criminal rate, sila yung mababa. Sana maging din yung Pilipinas, maging Singapore din.
The European Union. The European Union came into being with the adoption of the Treaty of Maastricht in 1992, and it brought together three organizations established in the 1950s to integrate activity in specific sectors, the European Communities and the two areas of intergovernmental cooperation, common foreign and security policy, and justice and home affairs. The six founding countries are Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. The E represents one in a series of efforts to integrate Europe since World War II. At the end of the war, several Western European countries sought closer economic, social, and political ties to achieve economic growth and military security, and to promote a lasting reconciliation between France and the Middle East. The Middle East is a transcontinental region in Afro-Eurasia, which generally includes Western Asia, except for Transcaucasia, all of Egypt, mostly in North Africa, and Turkey, partly in Southeast Europe. Several major religions have their origins in the Middle East, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Arabs constitute the majority ethnic group in the region, followed by Turks, Persians, Kurds, Azeris, Copts, Jews, Assyrians, Iraqi Turkmen, and Greek Cypriots. Economically, the Middle East is known for its vast oil reserves. Gulf Cooperation Council. The Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, is a political and economic union of Arab states bordering the Gulf. It was established in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in May 1981, and its six members are the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The purpose of the GCC is to achieve unity among its members based on their common objectives and their similar political and cultural identities, which are rooted in Arab and Islamic culture. Presidency of the Council rotates annually. The Gulf Cooperation Council is an organization of six oil-exporting countries of the Persian Gulf that is also known as the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf. The Cooperative Council formed in 1981 to foster economic, scientific, and business cooperation. Economic Cooperation of West African States. The Economic Community of West African States, also known as ECOWAS, is a regional political and economic union of 15 countries located in West Africa. Collectively, These countries comprise an area of 5,114,162 square kilometers and in 2015 had an estimated population of over 349 million. ECOWAS aims to promote cooperation and integration. It aims to establish an economic union in West Africa in order to raise the living standards of its people and to maintain the enhanced economic stability, foster relations among member states, and contribute to the progress and development of the African continent. The 15 members of the Economic Community of West African States are Benin, Burkina Faso, Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. South African Development Community. The Southern African Development Community is an intergovernmental organization headquartered in Gaborone, Botswana. Its goal is to further regional socio-economic cooperation and integration as well as political and security cooperation among 16 countries in Southern Africa. The Southern African Development Community was formed in Lusaka, Zambia on April 1, 1980, when it was formed as a loose alliance of 9 majority-ruled states in Southern Africa, known as the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, with the main aim of coordinating development projects in order to lessen economic dependence on the then apartheid South Africa. The founding member states are Angola, Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Swaziland, United Republic of Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe.
Developing countries and international trade. When the United Nations Conference on Trade Development came into being in 1964, that was the first developing nations into international trade as they did not participate actively in multilateral trade negotiations for a long time. Most of the developing countries did not manage integrate into the post-World War II trading system successfully because they followed an inward-looking, import substitution, industrialization strategy which did not favor trade openness. Findlay and O'Rourke, 2007. According to Findlay and O'Rourke, the first major change in the state of affairs of developing nations into international trade is when the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, or simply as UNCTAD, occurred on 1964. As the developing nations did not actively participate in multilateral trade negotiations for a very long time. The following objectives after 1964 were laid down as follows: preferential access to advanced countries' markets, renegotiating debt, establishing international commodity agreement to stabilize primary product prices, providing transfer of technology and increasing aid substantially. Salvatore, 2000. The main goal of UNCTAD was to promote trade and cooperation between the developing and developed countries. When we say developing countries, it is in on process country to developed countries, which are already done with the development. Africa is a potential loser of the Uruguay round. In reality, developing countries might have easily found themselves on the loser sides in the short term. Hertel et al. 1990. According to Hertel et al., they acknowledge that Africa is potential loser of the Uruguay round as well as the developing countries. According to Noor, Haynes views that developed countries could gain access to the markets of developing countries. So when we say World Trade Organization or the WTO, it is the global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. Some key trade facts. A trade deficit occurs when imports exceed exports. The United States has a trade deficit in goods. In 2012, U.S. import of goods exceeded U.S. imports of goods by
$196 billion. A trade surplus occurs when exports exceed imports. The United States has a trade surplus in services such as air transportation services and financial services. In 2012, U.S. export of services exceeded U.S. imports of services by $196 billion. Trade barriers and export subsidies. Tariffs are excise taxes or duties on the dollar values on physical quantities of imported goods. An import quota is a limit on the quantities or total values of specific items that are imported in some. Tariffs are important because it serves as important value to a dollar in order to know the number of imported goods. Import quota is the way of limiting the imported products in a period of time. An export subsidy consists of a government payment to a domestic product or export goods, and it's designed to aid that producer. The export subsidy is a government policy to encourage export of goods and discourage sale of goods on the domestic market through direct payments. The world's biggest economies in 2018 in terms of trillion US dollars. As you can see in the table, from year of 2017 to 2018, that United States has a big changes in terms of their economy, and then follow of other countries, and that is China with a second growing economy, Japan, Germany, United Kingdom, France, India, Italy, Brazil, and Canada. The McDonaldization of society. The organizational principles of McDonald's are becoming dominate most of the societies, and those are efficiency, calculability, uniformity, and predictability, and control through automation. McDonald's is very popular fast food chain restaurant and convenient, so they conceptualize that in our society. That business model includes efficiency, predictability, calculability, and control through automation. Four basic organizational principles. Efficiency. Efficiency is a value virtually without criticism in our society because it reduces human interaction. Optimum method for getting from one point to another. Efficiency is the principle that customers do much of the work or one-stop shopping like that. Calculability. It emphasis on the quantitative aspect of products sold and services offered. Do it according to the plan given. Calculability is the feeling that you get a lot of services offered and products sold at low price. Uniformity and predictability. It is the prediction and the assurance that the similarity of the products and services will be the same over the time. Predictability is the assurance that customers will avail the same products and services. Controlled through automation. Humans are the unreliable element form of the McDonald's system. They go through to the automation to minimize the unpredictable human element. Control. It is the substitution of automation to human worker in order to have more be productive.